Apocalypse Gaming.
Hi there my friends, hope everyone's well. Well, in this next series of vids I want to take you through and show you how to play Dreadball Kick-Off. Why? Well, as you know if you've been watching the channel, we have just recently picked up the game and we are thoroughly enjoying it. So much so that at Carronade at the weekend, the wife picked up her own team as well. She picked up the Void Sirens. I keep wanting to call them the Vixens, but it's the Void Sirens. She also managed to get herself a hold of the Kickstarter limited edition mini, Gabe, who's got a really interesting backstory. So if you're interested in the game, check out his backstory or listen to her video on her channel where she goes into it a little bit. And she picked up another MPV who, it keeps escaping me, the wild card. She picked up as well for her team. I know you're not supposed to be able to use the MPVs in the kick-off set, but we might just stick them in anyway until we get a hold of extra time. But long story short, I want to show you the game because it's really fast flowing. You know me, I'm a sucker for cinematic games. There's an awful lot of cinema in it because the dice rolls are so simple that you're getting on with the gameplay. And it was quick, it was fun, it's easy to pick up, but there's a lot of tactical nuances you could see in the game despite the easy rules. And I think it's a good one if you're bringing young children into the hobby, but also I think it's a good one if you're an experienced gamer. So it feels like a good all-round family product, and because of that I want to do a little bit of how do you play the game. So that's what's coming up next, is some how to play videos. So before we go anywhere, the first thing I want to familiarise you with is the Dreadball board. Along the top we have our rush counters. There are 14 rushes in the game, i.e. 14 turns in the game. Home side goes, away side goes, home, away, all the way along the board. So you've got 7 rushes each, so 7 chances to get your players doing whatever they're doing. The scoreboard is along the bottom. And now the way the score counter works is, starts at 0, and if you score a 4-pointer, it moves up to 4. If the opposition then scores a 2-pointer, the score slides back to 2. So the score will slide back and forward across the board depending on where we're at in the game. At any point in the game, should either side take it to 7 points, it's a landslide and the game's over. Quite simple, quite easy, but that's how it stands. So, at each side of the board, we have these sections here. As you can see, they're duplicated. This here is the subs bench, which is where you keep any players that have still to enter play. So you can have 6 players on the pitch and however many in your subs bench. Seeing the team's 8, you would normally start the game, or you would always start the game with 2 in your subs bench, 6 on the pitch. Here is your sin bin. This is where any players go that have been injured, and depending on the level of injury, they enter in a different number in the sin bin. Or they're dead altogether and they don't come back onto the board at all. This is the ref spot. Refs aren't used in the kick-off starter set, so that's irrelevant for the purposes of the kick-off rules. These sections here are our strike zones, and it's from these zones and only these zones that you can score a point. You need to throw the ball into your strike hex, which is the solid coloured hexes. There's 3 of each colour at the bottom of the strike zones. Depending on where you throw from within the strike zone will affect what you score. So if I throw from any of these hexes on this or this one, I score 1 point. However, if I want to make it harder on myself and throw from slightly further away, I could throw from either of these strike hexes into the strike zones and I would score 2 points. Same here, except the difference is I score 3 points from any of these ones, but I score 4 points if I go from the slightly more difficult position and try to score there. You can only score in the strike zone you're in, so you can't throw from here and score there. I need to stay in here to score in this one, here or here, and obviously same at the other side of the pitch. The pitch itself is split into home and away. The white side's home, the red side's away, and you roll off at the start to determine which side you get. So now that the pitch is explained, I'd like to go on and actually talk about the different types of players you get. What we'll do is we'll look at the players in the human side initially, because they've got the biggest variety. And you've got 3 different types of players. So then, we have our guard here. Our guard is our defensive player. He's the one that's going to smush the opposition players into the ground. He can't score, or she, depending on the team you're going for, but your guard can't score, but your guard can paste someone into a small mush on the ground. Our jack here is our all-rounder, jack of all trades. Doesn't do anything particularly well, but can do everything. So whereas the guard couldn't score, the jack can, but the jack can also slam, which is the term it's used to say getting into a fight. But he can't do it very well. They can do it, but not great. On top of that, you have your strikers, and your strikers, they are the golden boys of the game. They are the ones that pick up the ball, carry it halfway along the pitch, and shoot and score! So, valuable players, always targeted by your opposing guard, because you want to get them out of the game quickly if they're going to be running circles around you. So that's the 3 main styles of player. In the Marauder Orc side, you have only guards and jacks. You don't get any strikers in the box set for that. So we'll go through the mechanics of how each one plays and how to move around the board, but that's the players you've got. So before I go into the game and explain some of the different manoeuvres and how to set up, etc., it's worthwhile exploring the different types of tests you're going to take in the game. The reason it's worthwhile exploring it is because there's so few of them, so it's worthwhile knowing about them now before we go much further. And there's basically 3 different types of test. We have, and most tests are run on 3 dice with possible modifiers. So you have basically a 3 dice 1 test, which means you need 1 success and it works. You have a 3 dice 1, 2, 3 test, and that means each time you try to do it in the same turn, it's going to get subsequently harder. So a 3 dice 1, 2, 3, the first time I try to pass the test, I need 1 success. The second time I try to pass the test, 2 successes, and the third time I try to pass the test, 3 successes, if that's performed by the same player in the same action phase. Final test is a 3 dice X test, which means it's an opposed test, your success results against the opposing success results, such as when you get into a brawl on the pitch. And that is the 3 main tests you're going to be doing throughout the entire game. And it's just worthwhile you telling you about them in a minute, because there's so few of them, you should know just now before we go any further what they are. Actually, there was one other thing worth talking about when we're talking about the tests, and that's doubling. There's many instances in the game that if you roll and you pass your test and you double the required amount of successes, the player often gets a free action. So you're not spending any of your 5 action points that you have, it gets to do something for free. And it depends on the manoeuvre that you just tried to pass, what that free action will be that they can do. And it's very simple like that. So it can lead to the situation where free actions, like you run up the pitch and score, you've covered quite a bit of distance just due to the free actions that you've managed to get.
Apocalypse Gaming.